Good morning, students. Today I will discuss about the remaining important concepts in the hemodynamics. So in the last class we have seen the flow pressure resistance relationship of the flowing blood. So now we will see the velocity of blood flow, which means the displacement of blood per unit time, that is measured in centimeters per second. Whereas the flow rate or rate of blood flow is the amount of blood flowing per unit time, that is measured in centimeter cube per second. Physiologically important aspects to be considered in relation to the velocity of blood flow are velocity and cross-sectional area relationship and the velocity and pressure relationship. So here the relationship between velocity, flow rate and cross-sectional area is given by the formula V is equal to Q by A. So V is, that is velocity of blood flow, is inversely related to cross-sectional area and directly related to blood flow. If blood flow is constant, the velocity of flow is inversely related to cross-sectional area. So here if you take the example of capillaries and aorta, whose cross-sectional area, that is capillaries cross-sectional area is 1000 times that of aorta. So velocity of blood flow will be more in aorta compared to the capillaries. So this is the picture showing the relationship between the cross-sectional area, velocity of blood flow and the pressure in the various segments of the cardiovascular system. So it depicts that to keep the flow rate constant or equal, the velocity of flow must vary inversely with the cross-sectional area of each vascular segment. So this is in accordance with the continuity principle, which states that in any system arranged in series, the flow through each vascular segment must be equal to the flow through every other unless one segment becomes progressively distended. Okay. So to keep the flow rate equal or constant, velocity of blood flow must vary inversely with the cross-sectional area of each vascular segment. So this is in accordance to the continuity principle, which states that any system arranged in series, the flow through each vascular system segment must be equal to the flow through every other segment. So next we will see the velocity and pressure relationship. To understand the effect of velocity on the pressure, it is important to understand the concept of total energy or total pressure, and then potential energy and then kinetic energy. So total energy or total pressure of a fluid in a tube at any point equals the sum of potential and kinetic energies. Okay, so this is the one. And potential energy is equal to hydrostatic pressure plus lateral pressure exerted. So total energy is equal to potential energy plus kinetic. Potential is again depending on the hydrostatic and lateral pressure of the blood vessel. Hydrostatic pressure results from a difference in vertical height in a fluid-filled system. So it is represented by pH. So what happens in a fluid-filled system when it is present vertically? Because of gravity, the fluid has weight that generates a force which is proportional to its vertical height. So pH is equal to delta into H into G, where delta represents the fluid density and height of the fluid column above or below a reference level, and then G for gravitational constant. So this is a picture showing the effects of hydrostatic pressure on the human vascular system. So this is in upright posture. Considering the aorta as a vertical fluid filled system, we can study the effects of hydrostatic pressure. So that zero reference level is taken at the level of right atrium of the heart. So the above blood vessels are considered to be having negative gravitational effect, and the below blood vessels will be having positive gravitational effect. So here the distance from the reference level. Suppose this is at 0 and above the reference level, here the head will be distance at a distance of 50 centimeters, minus 50 centimeters, and from the 0 reference level the foot is placed at 100 centimeter distance. And here the venous pressure above the head is minus 37 mmHg and the arterial pressure is 80/40, and at the level of reference level the arterial pressure is 120/80, and below the reference level the venous pressure is plus 80 and the arterial pressure is 200/160. So how can you explain this? The pressure in the vessels of the foot higher than the pressure in the root of the aorta. So this is the root of the aorta. So this pressure is less compared to the pressure in the vessels of the foot. So as the distance is increasing from the reference level, the weight or the force generated produced by the fluid in the vascular system is increased, which is the reason for increase in the pressure in the vessels. So when the person is in supine position, the hydrostatic effect is eliminated because the entire cardiovascular system is essentially at the same horizontal level. So here in the supine position, there is no effect of hydrostatic pressure. In the next, lateral pressure or static pressure gets converted into the kinetic energy or forward flow velocity. It represents the pressure in the cardiovascular system that usually measured with a strain gauge or transducer after eliminating the hydrostatic pressure effect. Whenever flow has to occur through a narrow region of the tube, the lateral energy component of the tube gets converted into kinetic energy component, because of which velocity increases. So kinetic energy is nothing but the momentum gained by the blood because of its mass and velocity. You already know the formula for kinetic energy, half mv square. So then when velocity of flow is very low, kinetic energy is negligible. The effect of velocity of blood flow on the total pressure exerted is expressed mathematically by Bernoulli's principle, which states that in supine position, where the effect of gravity and the hydrostatic pressure is removed, the total energy or pressure is equal to P plus half rho v square. E is the total energy or pressure, P is the lateral pressure, rho is the density of blood, V is the velocity of blood flow. So from this picture we can understand the Bernoulli's principle easily. So they have taken an AB tube which is divided into three segments. The central narrower S2 segment where the velocity of blood flow is high, and the wider S1 and S3 segments where the velocity of blood flow is low. In S1 segment, in all the three segments they have placed 6 tubes as A1, A2, A3 which are having the lower ends facing the upstream so that they record the total energy or pressure, and B1, B2, B3 are constructed so that they record only the lateral pressure. So in the S1 segment the total energy is 101, whereas the potential energy is 100 and the kinetic energy is only 1. So the difference between the total and potential energy is only 1, and the same with the S3 segment. The heights are little lower, but the difference between the total energy and the potential energy is again 1. But in the central part, the narrower part where the velocity of blood flow is high, the difference between the total energy and the potential energy is very high. Drastic difference you can see. So here it is mistake. This part is also empty. It is not colored. So the difference between the total energy and potential energy is kinetic energy, that is very much higher in the central part, because when the velocity of blood flow is high, what is happening? The potential energy is getting converted to kinetic energy and the total energy becomes less than the total pressure. Sorry, potential energy becomes less than the total energy. So from this we can derive 2 points, that is, when the velocity of blood flow is high, some potential energy is getting converted to kinetic energy, and as the fluid is moving in a tube, the energy is progressively lost due to resistance offered by the walls of the tubes, and further the energy loss occurs more where the resistance is high. So these are the 2 important points we can derive from the Bernoulli's principle. And how it is applied in the real life, that is in the body. In the arterial system, the kinetic energy factor is negligible, and also in the vena cava, the kinetic energy factor is very much negligible. So in circulation at rest, the kinetic energy factor is of little importance on both arterial and venous side. So therefore, it can be regarded as the flow occurs between the root of aorta and right atrium by virtue of pressure gradient only, that is from one end to the other end. Okay, so that is the concept of Bernoulli's principle, which we can apply into our human body. Circulation time, which is the time taken by the particles in blood in reaching from one point to the other point. It measures the average linear velocity of blood, and this calculation in different regions of the body has clinical importance in detecting the circulation disorders of that particular region. So the circulation time between 2 points can be estimated by injecting a substance into one segment of the circulation and noting the time lapse when it can be detected at the other point. So the examples for this calculation of circulation time are arm to retina circulation time, which is estimated by injecting fluorescent dye, and the process is called fundus fluorescent angiography. We can see the dye in the fundus with the fundus camera on the retina. And then arm to tongue circulation time, which is again estimated by injecting bile salts in the vein of the arm, and appearance of bitter taste of bile salts. And the average time for this is 15 seconds. And arm to face, estimated by injecting histamine and noting the time taken for causing flushing of face, and this is averagely 24 seconds. And arm to lung by injecting bolus of ether into the vein of the arm, and appearance of coughing produced by its arrival in the lungs, and the average duration is 6 seconds. And foot to foot circulation time is by injecting dye into the vein of foot reaches other foot after circulation through heart within 80 seconds only. It indicates the total circulation time, that is from one foot to other foot. And the various factors affecting the circulation time are increased cardiac output and exercise and excitement, adrenaline, and the basal metabolic rate increase. So all these will affect the circulation time variedly. And the next important concept is blood flow, the types of blood flow, and then measurement and distribution of blood flow. So there are 2 types of blood flow, laminar and then turbulent. In the laminar, otherwise called streamlined blood flow, the blood flows in large number of layers at a steady rate, whereas in turbulent flow, blood flows in all the directions in the vessel, greater energy loss will be present. And the laminar flow is seen mostly in the vascular system, and the turbulent flow is seen in ventricles and aorta. And this laminar flow is silent in nature, and this turbulent is noisy. And the laminar flow shows linear relationship with the pressure, and the turbulence is given by the Reynolds number. So the velocity of blood flow at which the laminar streamlined flow is converted to turbulent flow is called critical velocity. So in the picture, you see the laminar blood flow showing different velocities of different lamina, resulting in parabolic distribution of the velocities. So here you can see the parabolic distribution because the lamina are having different velocities. The central lamina is having the highest velocity. So when the laminar flow will be converted to the turbulent flow, that velocity is called the critical velocity. So normally none of the small vessels show turbulent flow in the body. In humans, the critical velocity sometimes exceeds in the aorta at the peak of systole. And here in this picture, you can see because of constriction, the laminar flow is converted to the turbulent flow. So constriction of artery by atherosclerotic plaque or any other cause is associated with blood flow velocity which exceeds the critical velocity and thus causes the turbulent flow. So this generates vibrations which can be heard over the artery by stethoscopes, that is Korotkov sounds heard while recording the blood pressure over a constricted artery. So while recording the blood pressure, what we do, we will constrict the brachial artery by applying pressure from outside, that is by putting the arm cuff and raising the pressure in it. So what happens, the artery will be constricted so that the velocity of blood flow increases, which is getting converted into turbulent flow. The chances of blood flow becoming turbulent is determined by the probability of turbulence, which is denoted as Reynolds number. That is Re is equal to root dV by eta. That is R is Reynolds number, rho is density of blood equal to 1 and d is diameter, V is velocity of blood flow and eta is the viscosity of blood. So the blood flow is usually determined by this Reynolds number. So it is usually not turbulent when Reynolds number is less than 2000, and the chances of blood flow becoming turbulent are increased when Reynolds number exceeds 2000, and when it is more than 3000, turbulence is almost always present. So this value 2000 is important. So if it is less than 2000, there is no turbulence, and chances are there when the value exceeds 2000, and if it is more than 3000, it is definitely present. So the Reynolds number directly proportional to the density, diameter of the vessel and velocity of blood flow, and indirectly or inversely related to the viscosity of blood. So the measurement of blood flow is done by these 5 methods. The Fick's principle is the most commonly used method to know the blood flow to various organs like lungs, heart and brain. So the principle is nothing but oxygen consumption per minute by the arteriovenous difference of the partial pressure of oxygen. And the next one is pH acid clearance, which is used to know the renal blood flow, and the electromagnetic flow meter and Doppler flow meter are the technical methods which are based here on the principle of the vessel. The principle is that when a vessel containing blood is placed between two poles of magnet, voltage is generated in the blood flowing through the magnetic field, and the magnitude of voltage is proportionate to the volume of flow and can be measured with appropriately placed electrode on the surface of the vessel. Here electromagnetism is used, and here Doppler means ultrasonic waves are used. So in this instrument, the waves are sent into a vessel diagonally from one crystal, and the waves reflected from the red and white blood cells are picked up by second downstream crystal. The frequency of reflected waves is higher by an amount that is proportionate to the rate of flow towards the second crystal. And the last one is venous occlusion plethysmography. It is simple but crude. And it is based on the principle that if venous return of a part is suddenly obstructed, that part increases in size due to arterial flow. This increase in size is equivalent to the blood flow to that part. That is the principle. And how to measure the procedure is that the part which we have to know the blood flow is enclosed in a watertight chamber connected to a volume recorder. And the venous drainage from the limb is occluded for a few seconds by inflating the sphygmomanometer cuff to 60 mm Hg. The increase in size of the arm will displace the water in plethysmograph, which will be recorded with a volume recorder. The displacement is equal to the blood flow. So it is so simple but little bit crude because of the discomfort to the person. So till now we have seen the blood flow types and then the methods of measurement of blood flow. So this completes the distribution of blood flow, as you already know. At rest, 50% of the circulating blood volume is in the systemic veins and 12% is in the heart cavities and 18% in the lower pressure pulmonary circulation, and only 2% in aorta and 8% in arteries, 1% in arterioles and 5% in the capillaries. And when extra blood is administered by transfusion, less than 1% of it is distributed in the arterial system, and all the rest is in the systemic veins, pulmonary circulation and heart chambers other than the left ventricle, which are all the low pressure systems. Okay, so that is the distribution of blood flow to various regions of the body. So this completes the hemodynamics. Now we will see the hemodynamic disorders. The health of the cells and tissues depend on the circulation of blood. Normally, proteins in the plasma are retained within the vasculature and there is little net movement of water and electrolytes into the tissues. But in pathological conditions which alter the endothelial function, vascular pressure increases or decreases the plasma protein content, all of which will promote edema. So now we will see some of the important hemodynamic disorders. The first one is hyperemia, which is an active process resulting from arteriolar dilation and increased blood inflow, as occurs at the sites of inflammation or in exercising skeletal muscle. And these tissues are redder than the normal because of engorgement of oxygenated blood. And next condition is congestion. Hyperemia is the active process and the congestion is passive process resulting from impaired outflow of venous blood from the tissue. It can occur systematically as in cardiac failure or locally as a consequence of isolated venous obstruction. These congested tissues have an abnormal blue-red color or cyanosis that stems from the accumulation of deoxygenated hemoglobin in the affected area. And the most important common disorder is edema. It is the result of movement of fluid from the vasculature into the interstitial spaces. The fluid may be protein poor, that is transudate, or the protein rich, which is exudate. And the microscopic examination shows clearing and separation of the extracellular matrix elements. Although any tissue can be involved, edema most commonly is encountered in the subcutaneous tissues, that is the dependent parts like in the sacrum and the limbs and the lungs and the brain. And the condition is called anasarca, which is severe generalized edema marked by profound swelling of the subcutaneous tissues and accumulation of fluid in the body cavities. Hemorrhage is defined as the extravasation of blood from vessels which occurs in a variety of settings, that is trauma, atherosclerosis or inflammatory or neoplastic erosion of a vessel wall, which also leads to hemorrhage. It may be extensive if the affected vessel is a large vein or an artery. And then infarction. An infarct is an area of ischemic necrosis caused by occlusion of vascular supply to the affected tissue. Arterial thrombosis or arterial embolism underlies the vast majority of infarctions. And other uncommon causes of tissue infarction include vessel twisting, traumatic vascular rupture, and the entrapment in a hernia sac. And lastly, shock. It is the final common pathway for several potentially lethal events including exsanguination, extensive trauma or burns, myocardial infarction, pulmonary embolism and sepsis. And it is characterized by systemic hypoperfusion of tissues. It can be caused by diminished cardiac output or by reduced effective circulating volume. And the consequences are impaired tissue perfusion and cellular hypoxia. This shock is a separate topic for you. It will be dealt in detail in the coming classes. So these are all the various common hemodynamic disorders. So lastly, to summarize the entire topic in a gist, so what are the important points? We have seen the flow pressure resistance relationship, which is given by Poiseuille and Hagen. And then we have seen the flow pressure relationship, so that depends on the viscosity of the blood and the radius of the vessel. And then we have seen the velocity of blood flow, which is again depending on the cross sectional area and the pressure. We have seen the Bernoulli's principle, and then we have seen the blood flow, the types and the measurements. The types of the blood flow are laminar and turbulent, and which is again the turbulence is dependent on the Reynolds number, which again depends on the density and then diameter and then viscosity of the blood. So all these formulas are the simple concepts. If you read repeatedly and practice, they will be easily understood. So the concepts you have to get and don't mug it up. Okay, that's all. Thank you all.